And, these cases are solved by good preliminary investigative police work and collection of evidence. And these types of cases are always solved as a collaborative effort from law enforcement, also by the medical examiner's office, by the DPS crime lab, and the district attorney's office, and courts and others. These cases are solved, and moving forward, all those agencies are involved in the work of this. So people who were instrumental in solving this case and will be instrumental in going forward include Lubbock DPS Crime Lab Manager Kathy McCord and her staff. Some of their staff are here this afternoon. Also DPS CODIS Manager Gary Molina, and CODIS stands for Combined DNA Index System. And that was a relevant part of this investigation, as Captain Caspel will go into in just a few minutes. And then Lubbock County CDA Matt Powell and his staff, and Wade Jackson is here to represent their office, and certainly the officers, investigators of our police department. And now I'd like to introduce Captain John Caspel to you, and he's going to provide some of the details of this case.
Thank you, Chief Ellis. Good afternoon. As introduced, my name is John Caspel. I'm a captain here at the Lubbock Police Department, assigned to our homicide section. The purpose of this press conference today is to announce the arrest of Billy Jack Limbaugh, Jr., a white male, date of birth of 7/28 of 1971, for the 2008 cold case homicide of Monica Adams, as well as two related cases that led to him being arrested for Monica Adams' homicide. To review, on August 20th, 2008, Monica Adams' body was found in a field near the area of East Bradley and North MLK Jr. Boulevard, located within the Lubbock city limits. The preliminary investigation led to the belief she was the victim of an apparent homicide. DNA evidence was collected, and despite an extensive investigation by our homicide and crime scene investigators, the case eventually went cold, and the evidence was preserved for future investigation. This past week, the Texas Department of Public Safety's crime lab informed us that a known sample of DNA evidence had been directly linked to Monica Adams' homicide in what is called a familial DNA hit. This familial DNA hit meant that a close biological relative of a known DNA provider would be the person whose DNA was found at Monica Adams' crime scene. The case was immediately re-examined by our investigators. A new lead was discovered based on this familial DNA hit, and a possible suspect was quickly established. While investigating this new suspect, our investigators were able to tie Monica Adams' homicide to two other cases. The first one occurred around January 5th of 2008, in which the victim stated they had been the victim of a sexual assault and eventually escaped the captor. DNA evidence in that case had been previously linked to Monica Adams' homicide prior to this re-review. The second had occurred on May 11th of this year, in which the victim stated that they had been assaulted and thrown out of a vehicle in the area of 4200 Idley Road. During that investigation, the victim was able to identify Billy Jack Limbaugh Jr. in a photo spread as the suspect who had assaulted them. DNA evidence collected during that investigation showed Mr. Limbaugh was the source of the DNA in both Monica Adams' homicide and the related 2008 sexual assault case. Based on the investigations as they now stand, Lubbock police investigators have established Billy Jack Limbaugh Jr. as the perpetrator in all three of these cases, based on the original familial DNA hit provided by the DPS labs, as well as corroborating evidence linking all of these cases. Earlier this week, while the Monica Adams case was being further investigated, Mr. Limbaugh was arrested and charged with aggravated kidnapping and assault on the previously mentioned May 11th case. Today, Mr. Limbaugh has been served with additional arrest warrants and has now been charged with murder in the Monica Adams homicide case, as well as aggravated sexual assault for the related 2008 case. Mr. Limbaugh is currently incarcerated in the Lubbock County Detention Facility, where the additional warrants were served this afternoon. At this time, Lubbock police investigators have not linked Mr. Limbaugh to any other unsolved homicides, but ongoing investigations are underway, and we are in the process of serving search warrants as we speak to further these investigations.